stop taking the backdrop and start looking inside of you at the skills and the knowledge and your desire. You can pick and choose whatever backdrop you want to your life, but it's the skills, knowledge, and desire that led me to lead the most notable sports agency in the world and to negotiate some of the biggest contracts ever in sports. Since 1981, Justin has been producing world-class Bordeaux-style wines from Paso Robles on California's Central Coast. As the pioneer of Paso, Justin wines are what put Paso Robles on the winemaking map. The Justin team believes that wine should be exceptional from every angle, which is why their team uses boutique winemaking practices like hand harvesting and hand sorting. With a rich history of accolades, Justin produces exceptional wines and is proud to be America's #1 luxury Cabernet. Whether you're the first-time wine drinker or a wine aficionado, Justin has a wine for every celebration and occasion. Visit justinwine.com and enter promo code PLAYBOOK20 for 20% off your order. Justin offers the perfect holiday gifts for clients, colleagues, friends, or family. Be sure to check them out at justinwine.com to receive 20% off your order for a limited time and use the promo code PLAYBOOK20.
Mr. David Meltzer, thank you so much for being on the show and being on this our call. It's not even a show. This is on our group coaching call. Thanks for being here, man.
Oh, there's no better place to be than these types of places. Anyone that surrounds themselves with you is worthy of the time, attention, and intention in my life. And so I thank you for gathering such a great frequency and neighborhood to hopefully empower and to help gain clarity and more ease and less dis-ease in their lives.
Love it. So we're going to do the same old thing that we did at AmCon too. And I always warn people, I said, Dave is going to say some things that are going to roll off his tongue. And sometimes they're going to rhyme, but you can tell that they're phrases that he has said for years, but they're phrases, more importantly, that he has studied for years. And that's the piece that I think is really important. And so I want you to really have a pad of paper and a pen. I don't want you to multitask during today. I want you to be fully engaged because Dave, he has made all the money in the world. And he's also lost all the money and then he's making it back and he made it back again. But he's also negotiated some of the world's biggest sports contracts in history. I personally, Dave and I became friends first, and then out of the blue, I said, "Hey, I need you to coach me on something." And he's like, "No, dude, just call me." I'm like, "No. I want to pay you because one, it's valuable to me, but I need your focused attention on it." And of course, Dave's like, he's always okay with money. So he's like, "I'll happily take your money." And I wanted to have a new relationship with money. I wanted to think about it differently. My mother was a nun, and, we didn't grow up with much. Boo-hoo, so what? No one does. But I was more concerned with the mindset I had around it and the way that I looked at it, the narrative that I carried around it. And so that has been our conversation for the last 6 months around that and all those things. But so I want to do two things. One, we're going to have Jerry Maguire questions. So we got to get some of those out of the way. So I'm going to do a couple of those. I have them. But also I want to get into the deeper side of where your life is and what's happening. Because, you have such a spiritual sort of awakened sort of language about you, but you live it while at the same time doing incredible business. And so it's really cool to see that you can merge those worlds in where. So let's back up. Let's talk about being the CEO of the world's largest sports agency, being the inspiration behind Jerry Maguire. What was that like? And then I'm going to ask at some point, what's one of the coolest contracts you helped negotiate, if you could share it? And what was that like? So talk to us.
Of course. So real quick before, just to set the stage, you talk about all the nuggets, the lessons, and I do talk fast. One of the more recent lessons that I've learned, for years, I've told people, hey, only write down what resonates with you. So I'll have a whole bunch of great quotes like "you're either humble or you're about to be," which is one of my favorites. And if it resonates with you, go ahead and write it down and create a system to access it. But one of the more recent things that I learned, especially today with social silos, with religions, politics, philosophies, theories, etc., that we don't agree with, is when something resonates with you, it's not just the positive. It's when you strongly disagree with something, capture it and do research and pay attention and give intention to what you strongly disagree with, not just what you strongly agree with. And I have found that there's great wisdom and great confirmation of faith in studying what I don't agree with the strongest, as well as what I do already agree with at my frequency. So, just a tidbit of something I've learned recently that I started to do that has accelerated my wisdom and my faith to shorten the distance of resistance between me and where I want to be or better. So I dreamed about being where I wanted to be or better by being a sports agent. And I think thousands of people out there that were frustrated athletes that played in college and had an academic background, especially in the law or business, somehow or some way dreamed about being a sports agent. And running the most notable sports agency in the world and doing the movie taught me an extremely valuable lesson. There's a difference between having what everybody thinks they want or that you want and actually being happy. And the second lesson that I learned from running the most notable sports agency in the world is sports, entertainment, art, whatever it is that you're passionate about is a backdrop to business. It's a backdrop to a career. It's a backdrop to a job. And it's funny because Jerry Maguire, the movie, was actually, and people will tell me, that's one of my favorite sports films of all time. And I giggle because it's not a sports film. It's a love story that has the backdrop of sports. It's not a sports film. And that's why actually it's one of the most popular movies of the sports genre, is because it applies. Love stories attract men and women, children, etc. And that movie appealed to everyone. And the backdrop was a bug light to attract people to come watch this love story. Then the love story and the one-liners, which Jerry Maguire still has more one-liners by Cameron Crowe than most movies ever created. You still use them today, and we know them. And I'm sure some people would ask about them. But, you know, you had me at hello, show me the money, a variety of different one-liners, but it's all a backdrop. And so the lesson I learned was that stop taking the backdrop and start looking inside of you at the skills and the knowledge and your desire. You can pick and choose whatever backdrop you want to your life, but it's the skills, knowledge, and desire that led me to lead the most notable sports agency in the world and to negotiate some of the biggest contracts ever in sports. Now, one of the biggest deals I ever had was actually early on in my career. I had moved laterally. I was CEO of Samsung's phone division. It was really the data division. We had the world's first convergence device. It was a Windows device. They called it Windows CE. And people told me it was too expensive and too big. It just takes time before the truth comes out. And people like expensive and big on their convergence devices, known as smartphones today. But I asked Lee, why is it you hired me when you had thousands of people that wanted to take Jeff Morad's job? Jeff Morad was the chief operating officer of Lee Steinberg. They sold the baseball practice for $90 million. He bought into the Diamondbacks and became president of the Diamondbacks. And Lee was looking to fill his position. And I couldn't understand why he hired me, because I wasn't a great lawyer. I wasn't a great sports guy. You know, why would you hire me? And he said, because you have two things that everyone else doesn't. At the highest level, you understand technology. You've worked in technology since 1992. Your first exit was $3.4 billion. You raised hundreds of millions of dollars in technology and ran one of the biggest technology hardware companies in the world. And I see the future of sports and technology. And number two, you have the highest level of venture capital. You raise hundreds of millions of dollars. You've made hundreds of millions of dollars. And none of the other candidates have done either of those two things. Therefore, the future of sport is in venture and in the actual technology, meaning Lee always saw sports as a backdrop to skills and knowledge as well. And he desired my skills and knowledge to take the sports agency to the next level. And so one of the bigger opportunities I had was to sell. Georgia Frontieri owned the Rams. And one of the first jobs I had was to Franklin Financial, who had raised $900 million, is to sell the Rams. The deal didn't go through because of 2008. We got to agreement, and Franklin Financial went from, I think, a total of $1.2 billion in valuation down to like $100 million. So they couldn't go through with the deal. But what lessons did I learn from negotiating a $900 million deal with Brian Shaw of the NFL, the owner of the Rams, and some of the biggest venture capitalists in the world. I learned three things: never negotiate to the last penny, always be fair, and don't do business with dicks. And in fact, I just sold my eighth book to Simon and Schuster. And in fall of 2025, I hope the book's as good as the title. They have bought the book, Don't Do Business with Dicks. And I'm not talking about Dick's Sporting Goods because I don't want to get sued. I'm talking about assholes. But anyway, they like the word dick. Anyway, that's what I've learned. That's what it was like to run. The hardest part about running the sports agency, like I said, though, was having the job that everybody wanted and that you thought you wanted, and it wasn't what you wanted. It's kind of like meeting your hero. Having your dream job is not a dream.
So this, you said never negotiate with to the last penny. Always do the right thing and don't do
Always be
business.
fair. Always be fair.
Always be fair. That's what it was. Sorry,
Yeah.
two was always be fair. Okay. So let's talk about. I want to talk about never negotiate to the last penny because I bet you there's a ton of nuance behind that because I think some of us get caught up on an eighth of an interest rate and we're pushing, or people get caught up on, a rounding error instead of just getting back to the sentiment of the deal. I remember one time I was negotiating a salary for somebody was going to pay me, and I had pushed the number up to whatever amount, and he's like, "All right, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to give you another 5,000 on top of it." I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "I just want you to know that these details don't matter in the value we're going to create." And I was like, "Wow." And in that moment, it was like, it was such a small amount in comparison to what we were really talking about. For him to push it up made me engage 100-fold more to the relationship instead of him coming down 5,000 in that. And it was like, okay, if he's willing to do this, all right, he's got me. I'm in. And it was the smartest move because he got so much more out of me during that time period. So what do you mean by never negotiate to the last penny?
Well, it's the study over the years of value. You heard that a lot in my video. You hear it a lot in my bio. You hear it a lot in my content. And in the study of value, what I learned was that value is only given in two ways: giving people more of what they like and taking away what they don't like. And so when we commoditize value by putting a number of money to it, a currency, which is energy in motion, a currency, we are actually creating an interference in the ultimate objective of creating value for both parties. Deals work out.
Say that one more time. Say that one more time.
We are creating a problem when we get down to pennies or dollars or currency. We're actually creating interference of the true objective of a business dealing, which is to create value to both parties by collaborating, coordinating each other's skills, knowledge, and desires. And so the only way we derive value is to give each other more of what we like and take away what we don't like. That's how values drive. Then you can quantify dollars or currencies to what you like and what you don't like. And there's two values within the context of what you don't like and what you do like. And I've taught you these lessons, which I still teach people who teach and coach and write books and do content. It's perceived value and bottom line. You see, perceived value is your comfort level and your confidence in articulating what it is that they like or don't like. It's your comfort level and confidence. It has nothing to do with anyone else. So what is the difference between a speaker like myself who charges $100,000 to speak and a $25,000 speaker? What is the difference? I will tell you. It is my comfortability and confidence in articulating the value of why you should pay me $75,000 more than most speakers who are equal to or greater communicators than I am. I'm just more comfortable and confident in articulating a value. That's perceived value. Now, bottom line is really simple as well. Bottom line is what I'll do it for, what it's worth to me, right? It's that simple. And I will encourage you as every single negotiation, collaboration, I call them, but we'll call it negotiation because people are more familiar with that in the context of parties who are trying to come to agreements that are verbal, written, or orally, I mean, or with consideration. And in that context, we want to make sure that that value is worth it to both parties, that we know before going in, what is my perceived value? What's my asking price to buy or sell? And what's my bottom line? Where am I going to walk? If you don't know that before you go into a collaboration or negotiation, you've lost. And if you don't go in with the intent of learning about what it is you like and don't like, you've lost. And money has nothing to do with it, Rene. Money is a currency. It's an energy in the flow. And what we really want to do, because we can use payment terms, financing, debt, we can do all types of things to accommodate money. So, for example, I had a speaking engagement to give you an idea how this worked. To my favor, Mike Tirico and I were being considered. Mike Tirico is the ESPN announcer. There's two types of speakers and a combination thereof. People who sell tickets and people who impact people. Some people like Tony Robbins can sell tickets and impact people. Some people can just sell tickets, like Joe Montana. He's going to sell tickets because he's Joe Montana. Not very impactful speaker. And Rene, he may not be able to sell as many tickets as Joe Montana, but I promise you, his value to me would be greater if you see him on stage because he's going to change your life. Joe's not going to change your life, but you're going to get a cool picture for your kids. That's you guys with me. So going into that example, the Boy Scouts of America call me and say, we're considering you to do our keynote for our annual meeting. Last year, we raised $1 million at the meeting. And in my mind, I almost said my bottom line, oh, shit, I'll do that for free. What great content. What a great audience. Obviously, it's aligned with my passion and purpose, the Boy Scouts. And I caught myself and I said, slow down. What's your perceived value? I know your bottom line's free, but what's your perceived value of this opportunity to collaborate with the Boy Scouts of America to be the keynote speaker? And so I asked some more questions. Well, what is the purpose of the annual meeting? Do you need to sell tickets? Oh, we do, but it sells out because we're the Boy Scouts of America and we invite all the different groups and it's a self-fulfilling audience. We sell out every year. I said, so what's the objective? What is it that you like? Oh, we want to raise more money. Oh, okay. And what'd you raise last year? We raised $1.2 million. I said, well, to be candid, I'm much more expensive than Mike Tirico. Really? Yeah, really. Well, why? Well, because Mike will sell out an audience, but he's not going to help you raise more money. I'm $100,000. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You're $100,000? Yes. But we only have a budget of 75. So I'm already winning now because I had no idea they had that kind of budget. So then I said, well, let me
Boy
explain
Scouts too, right?
Yeah, right. And so I said, well, let me explain why I'm 100,000 compared to Mike. I said, because I will guarantee that we raise over $2 million. So if you want to raise 800 extra $1,000 this year, I'm not going to sell the tickets. Less people know who David Meltzer is. I'm growing, but not that much. More people see Mike Tirico at the Masters than David Meltzer at the Masters. More people see Mike Tirico in front of the TV than David Meltzer in front of the TV. More people see me on social media, but that's a tiny portion of that. So if you want to have Mike because you're going to sell more tickets or you believe he's going to raise more money or he's going to guarantee that, then go ahead and do it. But I will guarantee my $100,000 that you're going to have 8 extra $100,000 minimum. Can you see any reason you won't want to pick me over Mike? So not only did they have the $75,000 and allow me to do what the person did to you, and I said, they came back and said, we'll pay you the 100, but you need to guarantee you're going to raise over 2 million. And I said, done deal. I said, but I'd like to donate the 75,000 extra that you were going to pay me back to the Boy Scouts because I don't want you to spend more than you were going to spend already. Now, what did I have to lose? I was already willing to do it for free.
Yeah.
But I've seen people get their ego in the way in those circumstances And once they find, first of all, they either pull down their pants and do it for free and they lose because they're not as famous as Mike Tirico, who probably also is doing it for free because he doesn't understand, or his speaker bureau isn't going to negotiate, or whatever the problems are. He's negotiating to the last penny. Meanwhile, I created value and I
Yeah.
guaranteed it. And I do
It's
that all
interesting.
the time.
And so as I'm dissecting this, because I got questions, and I'm dissecting this in the sense of saying, okay, one, you understood a perceived value, and I want to go back to that because you also had the balls to say it, and that's a big piece of it, right? Sorry about saying balls, but you had the courage um, to say it. And then I always say, okay, so what does it take to create that kind of courage? And there's a whole avenue I want to go down there because you've also done things to earn that for yourself. So you've built your own self-worth. I think it'd be hard for somebody who's never spoken to say, I'm a $100,000 speaker. Yeah, you might have said it, but you don't have the have you earned it, which then goes into a whole slippery slope of self-worth and belief. And but there is a tangible reality to the fact of do you have the pedigree to be able to do that? Well, I think the person that says it confidently can do that and has delivered it. But the other piece too is you understood your bottom line. It says, well, if I'm willing to do this for free, what do I have to lose by throwing a big number out? Because one, you could have said, well, I'll just do it for 25. Well, then they go, shit, we save 50. Well, you threw your number out. They revealed where they were at when you can come down there. And it's funny, the times that I've done that, where I remember in the beginning stages of, kind of growing my speaker fee, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. And then you go out and you throw out that 50 and you realize that, holy shit, like, oh man, we don't have 50. We only have 35. And in my head, I'm like, that's still phenomenal for an hour's worth of time. I'll take that all day long. And, when I was at 5 and I just thought I'd do 10, and they go, I got 7,500. It's like, okay, hold on a second. Now we're talking speaker fees. I know a lot of people here are not speakers. Some of you are, but think conceptually what Dave is talking about. He's clear on his ideal. Like the ideal is here, and that becomes the new perceived value of where he's trying to go. And then there's the willingness to step back is what I'm also analyzing here is you step back and look at the bigger picture. In fact, I had a conversation this morning with a company and we had the same thing. They were like, we really have no budget. And I said, well, last I checked, you guys are doing about $37 billion. And I said, so maybe you just haven't identified a budget, but let's not worry about budget. Let me just ask you what you're trying to do. And I said, here, I've come to find out there's 3 different kinds of speakers. So this kind of goes in a little bit in hands with you. And I said, there's people that will speak and they're paid speakers, people like me, right? I'm paid to speak and I will tell you what to do, but then I'll also go into the how. And here's how. And I will deliver full value. There's no pitch at the end. I see myself as an extension of your strategy. And so I need to understand. I'll spend time ahead of time afterwards, really understand the strategy and what you do. And then there's people that won't charge you, but then they'll pitch. And really what you're doing is you're saying, hey, we don't want to invest in this person. So we're going to put somebody on that stage and then we're going to hopefully trick our audience into paying for what was going on. And so it becomes like a glorified sales pitch, which maybe that's what you're okay doing. I don't know, but it seems if you're pulling everyone together, you probably want to have value. Then there's the people that won't charge you and won't pitch. They're just new. And I don't think you want to do that. And so what are you trying to create? And they go, no, I get that. I said, okay. So it's like helping them, you step back and you almost have to help people understand what are they trying to achieve. Now, if you're a recruiter, you got to do the same thing. You got to step back. What are you trying to get? Well, what am I going to get paid? That is such a small detail in the bigger picture. If you're opening up, if you're a chiropractor, if you're a social media coach, you say, well, what's your monthly fee? Such a small detail. Does it really matter what my fee is if I'm achieving 10x what I'm charging? And it doesn't matter. Like people would say, Rene, what's it cost to bring you in? And for years, I've said the same exact thing. I think I put this in my book too. And I'd say to bring me in or not bring me in. And I get one of 2 responses every time. Either I get a chuckle, like, that's a good one. No, to bring you in. Or I get this perplexed, like, no, to bring you in. And my response is always the same. I say, I said, well, let's put it this way. If it costs you more to hire me than to not hire me, you're a smart business person. That would make no sense. So in essence, it will cost you nothing. But if there's a solution that I bring to the table, and I think that might be why we're talking, because you think there might be, and the value of that solution far exceeds any cost of bringing me in, would you agree that not solving that would create a delta between the two, and that would be a cost of not solving this. Would you agree? And they go, yeah. I said, so why don't we pull out a pad of paper and a pen and see what value we're trying to create together? And then we can see what number works for you, what number works for me. And I promise my number will be a lot lower than the value I bring. And if I don't bring it, don't pay me. Does that seem fair? And what people are like, wow, that's a great script. Well, yeah, it is, but it's more of a philosophy. Like it is a philosophy. Why would I do business in something that doesn't create value and far exceeding the cost of me paying for the value? And so we're kind of rerouting people to get to the real conversation of what it is. And so I'm hearing you do that in so many different ways. And it's like you get somebody like Dave who believes that to his core. You can put him in any scenario. He's immediately not going to, he's just going to step back and look at the bigger picture. And what are we trying to create? So you have perceived value, which is, I love the definition you gave. I wrote it down here. Your comfort level. There's the key, by the way, comfort level and confidence. So I just want to talk about comfort level because like, I know some people that are worth 100,000, but they're just not comfortable asking for it. Some people that are worth 5,000, but they won't ask, they'll ask for 200. Some people that are worth 15,000, they're asking for 2,500. So this comfort level is such a big part of it. Talk to us about how to increase our comfort level.
I believe for anything that we want to do in order to increase our comfort level, that automatically introduces and increases our confidence is practice. But you have to take, you said something really early in the response, which was we earn the right. And a lot of people think you earn the right to win or earn the right. You actually have to earn the right to ask because you can't be comfortable and confident if you're in a beginning stage of something. I would not be comfortable and confident in telling the owner of the Cavs, who's a friend of mine, hey, I'd like to play guard for the Cavs. I'm not comfortable and confident no matter how much I practice being comfortable and confident because I haven't earned
Why?
the right. I haven't earned the
Why?
right to do so, but I have earned the right to be the general manager of a team or the president of a team. And I'm extremely comfortable and confident if that's what I desired to at least ask. And then it takes a whole nother of confidence and comfortability of earning the right to succeed at doing that as well. And so I think that's true of anything. It's not only applicable in selling, but also buying. You know,
Mm,
one of the things that's so hard today and comfortable and confident and perceive value is on the other side of a collaboration, what other people call negotiation, especially in social media, subjective marketing. So marketing's always been subjective. It's more subjective in others because of the trillions of variables that are involved in growing a community or a brand. So for me, I want a quantitative guarantee from people I work with the same way I give one to people that I work with. And so for me, my objective of marketing is to test things efficiently and grow. And so I know that I can't get a guarantee of, oh, we'll do, if someone gives you a guarantee, I'm going to get you 10,000 followers, don't do it because you're going to end up with 0 followers in the end because you'll be shadow banned and seen as a
yeah.
scammer and it's not what you want. But for me, I know what it takes to test and grow in business. And the guarantee that I ask for is engagement and accessibility that's quantified. So I need you to be engaged for this many hours a day and accessible this many hours a day. And if you don't perform on the engagement and accessibility under the criterion which I'm asking for, I want a full guarantee. I want a refund.
Mm,
I don't care if we're not successful. You can't guarantee me success. I know that.
yeah.
But I'm very confident if anyone works with me that's engaged and accessible, we're going to test correctly and we are going to be successful. We're going to earn the right to be successful. And you need earn my business by giving a guarantee that you're going to be engaged and accessible. And I qualify people in this manner, and I've increased the amount of success I have and decreased the dummy tax because no one's been more quote unquote lied to, manipulated, cheated, oversold, and back end sold than the guy who has lied, cheated, manipulated, oversold, and back end sold others. And that's why, right? You hear what I'm saying there, because that's a really
Yeah.
good lesson of self-reflection, because you're not going to find outside of you what you don't see inside of you. And
Yeah.
so
Say
it's a
that
big,
again, because that is such a powerful piece. You cannot find outside of you that which you don't see inside of you. Say that
yes.
again, because that is such a big statement that will go so many times goes in one ear and out the other. And I'm going to repeat it and you correct me. I cannot see externally that which I do not have internally. Meaning, if I don't have any positive anything in me, it is impossible for me to see it externally. If I am hating, envious, jealous, annoyed, all of that external is also something that resides within me as well. I'm both positive and negative. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. And that mirror effect of, especially in our marriage, for me, the healing of my own marriage stemmed from me starting to look for what I wanted in my wife instead of looking for what I saw inside of me in my wife to justify the shitty husband I was. Now, I was a good husband in a lot of respects, but there's certain things I did in the first 7 years of my marriage concerning alcohol and drugs and strip clubs and dumb shit. And I projected that. I looked for that in my wife. And it's probably one of the more difficult things that I resent about myself. And that is hardest. People ask you, are there things you regret? I try not to have regret, but I will tell you there's things that are more difficult for me to forgive of myself.
Yeah.
And I would say of all the dumbass shit that I've done, excuse my language, the looking for what I didn't want in my wife from what I saw inside of myself
Yeah.
was one of the more damaging, harder things that I did in my own marriage. And, I just celebrated my 27th wedding anniversary. I think one of the areas of my life that I utilize my time effectively with that a lot of people admire took a lot of work. And it didn't happen overnight. As much as people look at, oh my God, the redemption of Dave Meltzer losing over $100 million and making it back. That's nothing compared to the redemption of Dave Meltzer as a husband. I was always a good father, but Dave Meltzer as a husband, it was much more difficult to make back what I had to learn. And I live by that. I live by the separations. I am not what I do. I am not what I am missing. I am not what I don't want. I am not the separation of me and others. I am not the separation of me and God. I am happy. I am healthy. I am wealthy. I am worthy. What do I do to interfere with it? That's the main paradigm shift. This show is brought to you by BetterHelp. Therapy is a great tool for facing your fears and finding ways to overcome them, because sometimes the scariest thing is not facing our fears in the first place and holding ourselves back. It's helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/playbook today to get a 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/playbook. Imagine starting a small business, your first customer, first hire, first real paycheck. But everything isn't just exciting, it's scary. That's where JustWorks come in, the all-in-one platform that supports small business growth. Access seamless tools that help with benefits, payroll, HR, and compliance with transparent pricing. It's time to make payroll painless, run payroll in 90 seconds or less, and automate payments so you can set it and forget it. Did you know in 2023 alone, they processed over 25.6 billion in trusted payroll customers? Don't worry about the paperwork piling up either. They take care of payroll tax documents and reporting to help you stay compliant. Visit justworks.com/podcast to join the thousands of small businesses that trust JustWorks to take care of payroll, benefits, compliance, and more. That's justworks.com/podcast.
I always admire your willingness to be vulnerable, uh, because it's we have so little of it in today's social media flash highlight reel world, where people will they get a chance to pick and choose what the world sees. And I get it, um, but you've always been so transparent in the ups and the downs. And somebody once said, I think it was Jim Rohn, he said, if you take full responsibility for your life, meaning you take full responsibility for your failures, then you don't have to apologize for your success. And it was a really cool thing. Okay, so I got to own the really bad stuff, and then if I can turn around, I get the good stuff because I own the bad. I don't got to apologize for the good and the benefits. And I think that that's part of the journey I think we all face. Myself, and you know my journey right now in terms of, I'm 9 weeks without scrolling one time in social media. And the clarity and the cleansing that that has done, moving from a reactionary day, meaning what somebody decides to put in front of me versus me choosing what is in front of me. And that's what that did. Was the scrolling was, what do people have for me? What do people have for me? And the science behind the dopamine and the thumb up and down. "Well, I don't like that. What's next? What's next?" Instead of saying, no, 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 no. Where am I going? And I start moving in that direction. You know what I need in this? I need this. Let me see what Dave says about this. And I go find it, consume it, go back to work. And just that one shift has been so dramatic for me. The other piece too is making a dramatic shift in travel, where I stopped my travel from one day to the next by 80%. And in the 9 weeks that I've done this, I'm going on my longest trip here tomorrow. Is today Tuesday or Monday?
Monday.
No, Monday. Monday. All the same. On
Yeah.
Wednesday, where I go from Wednesday to Sunday, which is feels like brutal. That used to be weekly for me. And coming home and realizing that that didn't work for my wife, that didn't work for the kids, that didn't work for all this stuff, and just having to take an inventory and saying, okay, this needs to stop, and not messing around, not pussyfooting it around, just saying it stops today and it ends here. And shit, that's scary. It's scary. And then, there's what people don't see. And this applies to every single person listening, by the way. I'm not like, oh, look what I do. This applies to your story. What people don't see about our story is all of the shit that we have to go through to get to any level of success in anything. Like people may not have money, but they have a great marriage and be like, man, they're so lucky, it comes easy to them. They don't realize the work that those people put in to have the level of communication and candor that they might have, or vulnerability and dependence on one another in a positive sense. They don't see that. They don't see I was talking to my video guy because I'm speaking tomorrow at a Vistage event. So we had 600 CEOs coming. And I was like, hey, you come video it. And he's like, yeah, but I want to do it differently. And I'm like, that's why I called. What do you want to do? And he's like, there's plenty of you speaking out in the world. I want to capture what nobody gets to see. I'm like, well, what? He goes, I want to see how you make your eggs in the morning, how you make your wife's coffee. And I'm like, I go, like, those two things are like really important to me in the morning, but I've never videoed it. Like I will sit there and I make the coffee in a really specific way. And as it's coming out of the thing, I'm, moving it around and like, why do that? It's like, it just stirs in the cream better. I was like, whatever it is. And people are like, do you really need to? I don't know. It just feels like it tastes better. They get the whipped cream on top, and then I go in the closet. And I got this little piece of chocolate. I got this, and I just shave chocolate over the top. And it takes me, it's like, and then but my favorite part is handing it to her. He's like, I want to capture that. I'm like, all right. And I go, well, what about my eggs? Well, eggs, I make soft eggs, and I sit there and I put them on low heat, put them off the heat, on, off the heat, to make these eggs that are just creamy and perfect. And I take little chives and I, cut the chives on top. And this is just to me to consume it in about 3 minutes. But that time period is so important for me. And he's like, I want to capture those things. And then I want to capture your journey, what you do, how you write your notes. And then the video ends as you're walking on stage. I'm like, oh, that's so different. It's so different. But, and there's also the unsexy part where I got to carry 2 boxes of books, and it sucks because your shoulder hurts and you don't want to sweat through your suit, and, and like all that stuff that people don't realize that can be, stupid. But yeah, I think that there's that journey that we all go on. And what I hope, the reason I say all this, because I'm going on a little rant here, is I want you to be listening to this and to be just as self-reflective as Dave's sort of challenging us to be, to look internally and saying, what is my confidence level? Maybe it's not that somebody else is lucky. Maybe it's that they've done something to do that, to earn that right. And have we earned the right? And don't get confused with the self-esteem and the false humility of that. And I'll be one nice example. Is I love lighthouses. You see, they're all over. And I have this image of wanting to be this lighthouse that's in the middle of the ocean, and these massive waves are just crashing against it. It's almost scary when you see it. And I was like, well, I want to be the lighthouse. But then I really started realizing, I'm like, no, 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 no. The lighthouse is strong because it has something. What did the lighthouse do to become that strong? And I want to look beneath. What's down there beneath the water? How reinforced is that lighthouse? What is it made of? And I'm like, that's what I need to focus on. And I've been saying, I want to do the things that created the lighthouse to be that strong. And that's the tough question. And that's not even always seen.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And what is required of us are the lessons that we learn. Life is about those lessons, and lessons will keep on coming until we learn them, and they'll keep repeating themselves until we learn. And they'll come in different forms and fashions, in different circumstances, and different people and different messages. But there's only three ways to learn lessons, and it is involved in accountability. And you talked about, in order to have the comfortability, you have to be accountable. In order to be confident, you have to be accountable. And so for me, it's number one, like Jim Rohn said, you have to be responsible in order to learn. What did I do to be responsible for this? And what am I supposed to learn from it? The
Yeah.
second one is an energetic one, which is, what did I do to attract this to myself? Surrounding myself with the wrong people, the wrong ideas, traveling too much. What am I doing to attract this to myself? And what am I supposed to learn? And then the third one we talked about in the internal to the external, which is, what am I doing to participate in this perception? Because that's all it is. It's a meaning. What meaning am I giving the setbacks, failures, mistakes of my past? And what am I supposed to learn? Because there's only two things that will limit your future. One is the meaning you give the past, the successes, failures, defining moments, historical relevances, shortage voids, obstacles of your past. The meaning you give that will create an expectation or a limitation for your future. And then, of course, our own self-image that's created by the accountability factor that will limit us. We'll never overachieve our own self-image. And so when we start reflecting, remembering, recollecting, and reminding about the lessons of our past, the defining moments, historical relevances, setbacks, failures, mistakes, shortages, voids, obstacles, etc., and even successes, but also seeing how is that meaning limiting our future by creating a self-image, one that is interfered with insecurities, the lack of comfortability, dis-ease. One of the things that bothers me about that Billions video, it's nothing's literal. There's layers of awareness that are created by messaging and words and statements and quotes. And one of the ones that bugged me when I first saw the video, but I left it in there because I know most people don't see the meaning of it that I do. I state, which hopefully you disagreed with at the level of awareness that you have, I state that happy people don't have dis-ease.
That's exactly what my brain did. And
Yeah,
I'm
and
like,
everyone's
bullshit.
like, "Fuck Dave Meltzer." Like you're saying, because I get a cold that I'm at
Yeah.
not at happy. Yeah, I am, in the respect that there's only our natural state is at ease. We are part of an omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing source. We're a resource of that loves us, protects us, and promotes us more than our mom. So if we are encountering dis-ease, and it could be physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, financial, it doesn't matter, that if we're at ease or we're happy pertaining to the subject matter, topic, or expertise, job, career, or industry that we're working in, whatever it may be, if we're experiencing dis-ease, happiness is the cure. Ease is the cure. You need to identify what you're doing, saying, thinking, feeling, believing. You have to take accountability for being responsible, attracting, and participating in this perception of interfering with your ease. And so I know there's multiple layers of awareness that's constructed within the statement. Happy people are not at dis-ease. I believe that. And that's
So
why I try to spend minutes and moments at dis-ease. And I go ahead and seek like you do, not react, seek the light, the love, and the lessons
yeah.
in order to put my dis-ease at ease.
So I'm going to argue with you on
Sure.
one point, but more semantically, because I think we're saying the same thing. But I think my mother used to always say, you never argue taste and semantics. And it was one of those big lessons, but I'm gonna talk about it because I want to hear semantically because I've been closing for the last 2 years most of my talks that suffering got a bad rap and the goal of life is not to be happy. And because I was having this conversation with my son and he's like, wasn't it to be happy? I said, if your goal in life to be happy, you're going to be sorely disappointed because most of life is actually suffering and difficulty and sacrifice and things. I go, but that doesn't mean it's bad. I just think people misunderstand suffering as a part of something. And the other end of suffering is something even more beautiful, usually is joy. There's something really deep there. And so the person who pursues happy every day becomes very hedonistic. Like it makes me happy to eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I could live on peanut butter and jelly sandwich with a glass of milk. The Crustables. If I get weak, I go grab Crustables and I eat one in 2 bites. And I'm like, You know, it's only 2 bites. Let me get 4 bites. And now I'm 6, 8. If I eat a third, which I could, I've never done three, but I totally would. That'd be 900 calories, almost 1,000 calories. And, but then, I'll have, but that makes me happy. And in that moment. And so that I've almost had to restructure and re-narrate what happy means to me, and realizing that there's something bigger in beyond that moment, and that it's a sense of, because I think that I also heard you say that in that adversity, in that dis-ease, that there is a sense, that can be a sense of appreciation in there, because I think the beauty of suffering is it does give us contrast. When I know if I experience evil, it gives me that much sweeter of a view of good. And if I've never experienced evil, I wouldn't recognize good if it slapped me in the face. Think of people that, in their second or third relationship, and they didn't realize how good somebody was, because they never experienced bad. And then the people on their second round, third round are going, you know what? Hold on a second. This is really special, because I understand what really not special looks like. And it gives you a grounding. It gives you a sense of appreciation, so that I could be even happier, joyful, appreciative, calmer, at ease. And and maybe I'm hearing this, and maybe I'm answering my question, but I want to put it back to you, is that maybe the happy, quote unquote, word that you're using in that point to describe a sense of comfort within the discomfort, a sense of purpose within the difficulty, that makes the difficulty much more meaningful and tolerable.
Yeah, and what we're discussing right now, and for me, it requires appreciation of each other.
Yeah.
And this is one of the most difficult things that we have in our country, especially with religion, politics, spirituality, philosophies, and theories, is that we're seeking agreement, or we're seeking to be the same.
Hmm.
So we have to have the same labels, the same definitions. We have to have stable data, and that's with the trillions of variables involved in order to put people contextually in stable data where we both mean the exact same thing by certain words and certain expressions, and all of the things that we have to create, a separation and then try to come back with appreciation. We have to realize that even if you and I were in agreement, we had stable data, that the minute that we come to an agreement, and this is going back to the negotiation/collaboration, the minute we come to agreement, you and I, time, emotion, and value changes, which automatically puts us again at some sort of separation of agreement. So appreciation of each other, learning from each other to regain or realign the stable data that's necessary, so that we're learning from each other. And once again, each time that we learn from each other, we don't have to disagree. So in the context of what you say, I agree. Now that I understand your perception of what I said, it's not what I say, it's what you hear. I agree 100%. For
Right.
me, it's the consistent, persistent pursuit of our potential that's joy or happiness. Chris Gardner and
Mm.
I were doing a VIP dinner in Chicago on Monday. Chris Gardner was the one that wrote the book and lived the life
Pursuit of
of Pursuit of
happiness.
Happiness. Yeah. And I joke with him all the time. And Will Smith, I'm like, dude, you guys got it wrong. It's happiness is the pursuit. And just like Bob
Mm.
Parsons, one of my favorite stories, the founder of GoDaddy, he told me something that may be one of the wisest statements I've ever heard. And when he told me, I misunderstood it at first, because he said, Dave, if you love what you do, and I thought for sure he was going to say you'll never work a day in your life, which is counterintuitive and counter to what we're discussing here. But no, what he said was, David, if you love what you do and you can learn to love what you don't like and love what you don't love, and if you can learn to love what other people don't like and other people don't love, life will tell you all its secrets. It'll give you its cheat codes. Life becomes easy, and it
Mm.
dissipates the dis-ease. It
Mm.
dissipates the dis-easy. And so through communication and appreciation, where you and I are so close that we're not looking to separate from one another,
Mm.
we're also not looking to be equal in any way. We want to appreciate each other and how we're different and how we see things. We want to learn from each other, and we want to say, oh, that's another great way of saying what I'm saying. And two, that's another great way of empowering myself to look at it. That's another great way uh, to say that. And I'll go on a really hard point, because I love this one, and it's something, an issue that people don't like to talk about. And I went through this abortion. Okay, check this out. People disagree all the time on abortion because there's no stable data and they're not looking to appreciate one another. So for me, I start by appreciating, hey, whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, why are you pro-life? I don't believe in murder. Right? I don't believe in murder. And I believe that according to this time frame, I can't prove it to you, but according to this time frame, this is a life, and I don't believe in murdering a life. Now, on the other side, you have people that don't believe in murder also, but they just don't believe in the timing of when a life is or what is considered to be a life in order to murder that life. Right. I would say 99.99999% of the people that are pro-choice do not want to murder anyone. And I definitely would believe that of 100% of the people that are pro-life. That's the definition of pro-life. But if we sit
unless
down,
they also believe in capital punishment, then, it's like.
Right. Whatever they believe. But the idea is this. Hey, I want to learn and appreciate why you think that.
Yeah.
Especially on things that, fall within the realm of subjectivity more than fact. And there, there's always limited truth because we can always argue that way, which even to me is more indicative of, hey, let's sit down and appreciate one another, because if not, we're going to be so far apart and we're going to start looking for other things, just like in our marriage, that we don't want. And all of a sudden we could take one subtle difference in an agreement that we make such a wide disagreement that we now disagree with everything and separate ourselves from each other. We are not separate from anything or anyone. We are all one, and it's appreciation that draws us closer together, and it's the judgment, conditions, labels, and definitions that we're not appreciating of each other that separate us and create more interference or more disease.
Yeah, and I want to get to the two questions that came up here. Like Toby was like, when you have that appreciation of somebody, is like, say, Dave's saying it this way. My first thought was not he's wrong. My first thought was, what am I missing that I'm using a different word? Yeah. And so it like immediately opens up, because I don't care if I'm right. My mother taught me another thing, was her prayer in the morning is two things: for truth and for joy. I pray for truth and I pray for joy. And holy shit, sometimes those can feel antagonistic to each other.
Yes,
the truth can sometimes bring you not much joy.
Yeah.
And but the pursuit of truth to me is a higher value. It's more important than me being right. And that's the hard part. So I want to go to the first question, because we got one from Rachel, one from Caesar.
The graveyard is full of people that had the right of way.
Yeah, that's true.
Next time you want to be right, just remember the graveyard is full of people who had the right of way. They were right.
So true. It's so true. Oh God, that's so true. So Rachel, or no, go Caesar, because his first question was, how do you keep a strong faith in God while striving to grow financially? So Caesar is I met Caesar an event, a short version. He's a monk who spent 7 years in a monastery, and decided to leave, get married, and is just now re-entering sort of society as a real estate agent, and has this deep faith. He gave me this book, which has been life-changing for me, The Four Questions.
I got that.
It's so good. And he wants, so he's in that piece. So we'll go over there, and then the next question will go with Rachel's question. But let's go with that piece. How do you
I love
keep
this
strong
question.
faith in God?
I think that abundance requires faith. And let me tell you the illustration of abundance. One, and I'm going to give a story that I've learned to teach this to people. If you and I are having dinner together, and somebody served 1,000 steaks to our table, 1,000 Wagyu A5 fillets, 1,000 to our table, would you have any problem eating two and asking for a third? Would you have any problem giving away steaks to the whole restaurant and taking some home and giving them all the way? Would you would have no fear at all, because you have faith there's more than enough steak for David and Rene and everyone around us. This is truly analogously the faith that's required in order to live in the infinite flow of abundance. To one, believe there's something bigger than us, an omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing source, an infinite abundant source that is unified by our thoughts, by the meaning that we give the reality of our day, so that instead of giving to receive, instead of saying to yourself, the more I give, the more I receive, which is true, But most people that say the more I give, the more I receive, don't receive more than they give, and they end up at zero. I'm going to repeat that. Most
Yeah, I
people
was gonna say,
believe,
you're gonna have to repeat that one
yeah,
one more
because that's a
time.
core. Most people, and I was one of them, that believe the more you give, the more you receive less than they give, and wonder why they end up at zero. It's math. So I studied religions, philosophies, spiritualities, and theories about giving, about abundance. And you know what they all say? It says, the more you give, the more you're given. So elevate your awareness to all that you're given. Have faith in God that He is giving you a divine detour. He is giving you exactly what you need in a divine direction as a divine detour. He's protecting, promoting, and loving you. You're just too stupid to understand or know how this outcome is protecting and promoting and loving you at the time. But you need to use gratitude to find the light, the love, and the lesson in what you're given, and forgiveness to get out of your own way to receive it by being worthy of receiving it. And then, so I'm giving more in my life. I'm aware of all that I'm given, which is more than more. Then I'm worthy of receiving more than more. Then the ultimate act of faith, you mentioned it earlier, is to ask for more. The ultimate act of faith is that, hey, I know there's 1,000 of these things. Of course I can ask for more. There's more than enough steak at the table. If I want to eat 6 steaks, they're all there, and there'll still be plenty for everybody else. Just because I'm eating 6 doesn't mean Rene can't have 7 and the table next to us can't have 10. There's more than enough steak for everybody. So if you give more, you're given more, you receive more, and you ask for more than more, next time around, you're giving more than more, you're given more than more, you receive more than more, you ask for more than more than more. Now you're giving more than more than more. So instead of playing a silly zero-sum game, believing the more I give, the more I receive, without actually using faith, you're going to end up at zero, where faith is the critical dependent variable of all giving, receiving, and asking. We ask God all the time. Why? Because He has more than enough of everything for everyone. And we participate with our faith and receive wisdom in order to get us there faster. So stop playing a zero-sum game. It is faith. Every time you ask for more, you are telling God, I believe in you. I believe you're protecting, promoting, and loving me, and you have more than enough for me and everybody else on earth. And if you don't ask for more, you're not worthy of receiving, or you're not grateful of seeing the promotion, protection, and love in what you're given, then you are lacking faith.
As Mike said, thank God this is recorded. We're going to have to go back to that one. We're going a little bit past our time, but I want to keep going on this question. Thank you. The Back to Rachel. Where's Rachel's question? Right up here. She said, I'm struggling with my relationship with my mother. I've done so much work on it, spiritual, emotional. Can you share how to generate breakthroughs when you're clearly stuck?
Well, being
And I have a
stuck,
thought I'll add at the end of that one.
yeah, please. Being stuck's a good thing. I always tell people, if you're in a room and they lock all the doors and windows in the room, and you're not trying to get out to a better place, a better position, a better situation, you're never going to feel stuck. So only the people that are trying to be better, to get to a better place, a better situation, a better circumstance, they feel stuck. So continue being stuck and keep on looking for the key to open the window or the door. And asking for help is one of the key facilitators, and finding the key and finding and helping other people get to where they want to be is another way to get the key, helping others and asking for help. But more importantly, when we're trying to develop a relationship, use these 3 criteria, because where we get lost in these relationships is not just being grateful, but it's forgiving in the respect that people bleed and feed us. And I used to give really bad advice. If it bleeds you, fire it or let it fall away. If it feeds you, feed it. Bullshit. Because bleeding according to relativity is a blessing or not. So my children bleed. I have 3 daughters and a son, but my 3 daughters, 25, 23, and 20, they bleed the shit out of me, and there's no greater blessing in my life. My mom's 81. She bleeds the shit out of me, and there's no greater blessing in my life. In fact, my only objective of being abundant and wealthy was to make enough money to take care of my mom so she could have whatever she wanted. Why would I feel guilty, resentful, annoyed, angry, upset because she needs to bleed me now? Emotionally, physically, economically, it's a blessing. And I'm giving meaning to that. And so we have to use gratitude and forgiveness and accountability to clear the interference that we have from the snapshots of the past. And you know why our parents push our buttons? Because they installed them. And so we have to use our higher power of love to realize that it's time to look for the light, the love, and the lessons and the annoying bleeding that our parents are to us and we are to our children, and that we can dissipate and dissolve when we're stuck in a relationship, not only by identifying where and how they bleed or feed us, but the relativity of the bleeding and feeding. And now we can decide on the association we want to have with that person.
Yeah, that's so
My
good.
mom bleeds me, so I give her a minimum of a minute a day. And when she starts to really interfere with my future and my self-image and all the damaging things that parents can do to us because they're so afraid for us, then I just make sure she knows four things that make her happy. I'm happy, I'm healthy, I love you, mom, and I appreciate you. Those are the only four things she doesn't really care whether I went to law school or not. She really doesn't really care if I win trophies or honor. She doesn't really care about any of that stuff. You know what she really wants to know is my son, who I love more than myself, happy, healthy, does he love me and appreciate me? And so I make sure every day I tell her. And yes, I hang up with her, make excuses when she starts bleeding me because I don't have time to interfere with my self-image. And she's already installed certain buttons, and I don't need her pressing them to diminish my capacity or my light for the day.
So I'm hearing one, you've reframed the whole and re-narrated the relationship to see the appreciation in it and the gratitude in it. And two, you also haven't lost sight of the boundaries that you've set to protect what is important to you. I love that. And I think that balancing those two can exist. I'll say this to Rachel, and I've said this for years as somebody who's experienced this, is you will fix the relationship. It's either going to be now or it's going to be on someone's deathbed. And forgiveness will happen. And I've watched it happen too often where people have held on and held on and held on and held on. And I've helped people through thousands of stories, even through Amplify or whatever, and they've held on to these things. And they're waiting for an apology that probably will never come. And they're also creating space to punish the person. I remember this one story. She said, I created space and it was 20 years. And she was on her deathbed. And I showed up that day expecting her to be like, I'm so sorry. And my mom didn't even notice that I was punishing her. So I realized in that moment, I wasn't punishing her. I was punishing myself. And when you realize that, like I watched my family fall apart when I was 13, 14 years old. And, we had a huge family and they didn't speak. And then my grandmother died and everyone showed up. And now all his cousins who were kids when they were abandoned by all aunts and uncles were grown men and women. And they showed up and we're just like, was it really worth 18 years of loss to be that stubborn? I mean, now you want to get to know me. It's like, I don't know if I really care anymore. I mean, it's cool, high five, but my life's going in that direction. And it's like, wasn't the same. I'm not saying that it, was there, but it's like at some point we've got to be able to play that bigger role and maybe be. And the other part too is that there's a hard part of transitioning into adulthood. Freud used to say a man cannot be a man until his father dies. And his understudy, Carl Jung, said, well, the death is symbolic. Maybe we're not fully a man until there's a death of a parent tyrant relationship, meaning they're not giving me any better answers than I'm given. So I'm now the parent, or now I'm now the adult. And I think it bodes for men and women in that sense that maybe that is the rite of passage to being a parent and an adult. And what would I need to do? What would I want my kids to do? There's all sorts of filtering questions. And so for what it's worth, yeah, I hope that helps. And I promise you the forgiveness will happen. It just will happen now or at a time that maybe you might be full of regret. So Dave, thank you. One, I mean, we could just keep going on this. I think I might save this and post this as a podcast because this is definitely one of my favorite conversations, as always is with you.
Thank you.
Folks, if you haven't already, Jenny just posted his Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. It is full of value. Please make sure you're following him. And if people are asking where the replays on this, you've all have access to watching every single one of these videos. Jenny put the link again there. Make sure that you have, I think she put it there in publicly. Yes. Did you put that publicly, Jenny? Yes, I think you did. Yep. Make sure you go to that and click it. You have all of the, we put these up usually within a day or two. They'll be up in their resources. So Dave, anything you want to end with, anything that you want to send people to? I know that you have, by the way, if you want to see Dave, he does events 3 times a week in different parts of the country where you can go and hang out with him, be part of his neighborhood, see celebrities, movie stars, influencers, all getting together. Dave, what's the best way for them to sort of be part of that neighborhood?
Yeah, I would love for everyone to email me directly. I do answer my own emails, david@dmeltzer.com. I'm always happy to send my book, sign it, pay for shipping and the book. We do free Friday trainings. I go live every day. We do VIP dinners, meetups, holding courts, anything I can do to be of service or value to all of you, please let me know. But directly contacting me is the best thing to do. If what I said resonates with you positively, or you disagree with what I say immensely, then we're meant for each other. If I didn't make or move you in any way, then find someone that does, is my best piece of advice. Either someone that really resonates with you positively, or you seriously disagree with them. Those are the people that you want to and will learn the most from. And I do that, as you could tell with Rene, that we appreciate each other and elevate each other, and elevate others in the same respect. And I can't tell you how grateful I do rarely. He knows me. I have a 5-20 rule, 5-minute phone calls,
It's
20-minute
true.
interviews. And so, but everything I have has an exception, is according to relativity and association. And Rene is someone who's so relative to me and in our community, that he could even have more than an hour. And anytime you need me, want me, or think it would be beneficial to me, just ask, because I love you, Rene, and thank you for
Love you
allowing
back, my
me
man.
to do this.
I,
Have a
I
wonderful week. God bless. Be kind to your future self. Do good deeds. We'll see you later.